Alright guys, here we go with Chapter 1, Lesson 7. This is the last lesson of Chapter 1. Words, equations, tables, and graphs. So this lesson is basically going to take everything that you've learned in this chapter and put it all together. Let's start our first example here. In a game of What's My Rule, Kina picked the card shown at the right. Make a table for 4 different domain values and write an algebraic expression for the rule. Then state the domain and the range of the relation. Alright, so her rule, double a number and then add 3. So step 1, we're going to create a table showing the x values, the rule, and the y coordinates. Enter the 4 different domain values. So we already have this table made for you, so you don't actually have to make the table. We just need to fill it in. So we want to pick 4 different x values. First off, we're going to say let x be the number. We know it's important to remember to define our variable there. So 4 different domain values. We could say 2, 4, maybe 7, and 10. So our rule, double a number, then add 3. So if x is my number, then over here in step 2, the rule double a number, then add 3 translates to, well, double means to multiply by 2, and then add 3. So if my number is x, our rule is 2x plus 3. 2x plus 3. So now we're going to use that rule to complete our table. So in this middle column, we're going to substitute the values that we chose here. So 2 times 2 plus 3. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. So our y value is 7. If our domain value is 4, so 2 times 4 plus 3. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 gives us a y value of 11. When our domain value is 7, we have 2 times 7 plus 3. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 3 gives us a y value of 17.
May I have your attention, please? Attention students, there is a National Honor Society meeting in room 66 at this time, and a student government meeting in room 11 at this time. Thank you.
Alright, hopefully you continued copying that down through that announcement there. Our last value there, if our x is 10, then our y value should be 23. Okay, then finally, step 3, the domain and the range. So our domain, remember we want to use bracket notation. Our domain is our x values, so 2, 4, 7, and 10. Then our range is our y values, so again in bracket notation, 7, 11, 17, and 23. Alright, so there's our first example. Checking out this next one. So we want to talk about multiple representations. Words, equations, tables, and graphs can be used to represent relations. An equation, another vocab word for you here, is a mathematical sentence stating that 2 quantities are equal. Relations are often written as equations with 2 variables, one to represent the domain values and one to represent the range values. Remember, our domain was typically our x, and our range was typically our y. So we want to take a look at this box down here. Our concept summary, showing some multiple representations. Our first representation is our words. The distance is equal to 60 miles per hour times the number of hours. So there's our words. So distance, I want to figure out what's important here. We could use d for distance, equal 60 miles per hour. Remember, per typically meant times. And then we would use an h for hour. So distance is equal to 60 miles per hour times the number of hours. So if we check that over here, our equation, we pretty much got everything right here. So d equals, we write our 60 up above, 60 times h. Now they used t, it means the same thing, so d equals 60t. Just a reminder, when you don't see an operation there, it means multiply, so 60 times t. We could represent this as a table. So our time in hours, if we substitute it in to our equation, so D equals 60 times 1 would give us 60 miles. D equals 60 times 2 would give us 120. D equals 60 times 3. And D equals 60 times 4. So we would use our equation that we just wrote up here in order to fill in a table. And then each of these could be written as a coordinate pair or ordered pair. Both words work correctly there. Your domain values or your independent values always come first, just in case we're not using x and y. In this case, we were using time and distance. And then your range or your dependent variables come second. And then finally, once we have our ordered pairs here, you could graph them. Now when we have a graph, make sure you always check out what kind of steps there are. We don't always go by ones. In this case, our distance is increasing by 60 each time, so we're jumping by 40s here instead of by 1s or 2s or 5s. Now our time was still by hours, so that still increased just by 1. Okay, so that's some practice with some multiple representations where you're given one representation and you could be asked to represent the equation or the word problem in multiple different ways. And that is the end of chapter 1, guys.